Well,
or that was the foxhole one.
That was the foxhole
Yeah.
one.
This Amateur Radio Roundtable is brought to you in part by ICOM America.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Amateur Radio Roundtable. I'm Katie, WI7YL, here in Sundance, Wyoming, and I'm sending out a hearty greeting to all of you. Whether you're here tonight live, what is today? Today is April 16th, I believe. Yep, April 16th, and it's Tuesday evening, and it's 7 o'clock my time zone, but we do this live every Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock Central Time Zone. We hope you would join us either live or follow up on YouTube after the fact. Welcome to everybody who's live with us in the chat room tonight and participating in the show. We're happy to have you join us. And for those of you that are out listening on shortwave on the WBCQ 5130 kilohertz, welcome. Please do send us an email with a signal report. We'd love to hear how we're getting out to you and where you're listening from. We also have a very active Facebook group. We'd love to have you join us in there on W5KUB. Just look us up on Facebook and we'll have you join in. We've been having a lot of neat discussions lately. One of which was really fun, which was little Grace Lee, who just at 9 years old down at Hamcation got her extra class license, and now she has a new, a 2x1 call. So, or 2x1 or 1x2, but congratulations to you, Grace. That's going to be awesome. And Pat is with us tonight, and it's just me, Pat, and Tom tonight. And Tom's voice, as you may recall from the past, has been giving him some problems, but we're going to do our best, and he's going to chat where he can. So I'm going to try to handle and help out things. We've got quite a few things going on this week, but let me just check in with Tom real quick before I go back to some of our announcements. So, Tom, what's going on? Have you been yelling too much at your antennas and things out in the yard? And
I'll tell you,
your voice or what?
I called the net tonight, and after about 12 check-ins, I started losing my voice again. Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm getting this worked on, and I hope it's better next week. It's got to be better by Dayton. Hey,
yeah, you got to get it better by Dayton for sure.
Yeah. Hey, just a couple announcements real quick. Boy, I don't even know where to start. Let me see. Hey, we've got a DMR talk group now. We got our show has its own DMR talk group, 31693. And I've actually talked to a couple people on there tonight. So set up your DMR for a talk group, 31693. We're going to have Hamvention on here next week with us. But Michael Coulter passed on some interesting news to me tonight. We'll talk about it a little later too. At Hamvention this year, Sunday is free. You don't have to have a ticket to get in on Sunday, and the public is invited. So, Sunday is kind of a light day. A lot of people don't show up on Sunday, but they're going to open up for the general public. So there's a lot of people coming in, and there's a lot to see, computers and test equipment and electronic stuff, and there's lots to do there. Hey, I wanted to say one thing real quick before I turn it back to Katie. One of my acquaintances, Owen Garriott, is now a silent key. Owen was the first ham to take ham radio into space on the space shuttle. And of course, you may know his son, Richard. He also went up and made a gazillion contacts with people. But I remember the day that Owen went up, and I actually heard him as he passed over me in the space shuttle. as he was going up, and didn't work him, but I did hear him that day. So he's gone now, and just a quick little story about Richard. Let me see if I can get back here. Here we go. I had a chance to meet Owen and Richard here a while back, and that's Owen to my left and Richard to the right there. And Owen he's a scientist, and I asked Owen one time. I said, Owen, now I know you have this machine that takes your urine and changes it to water that you drink. And I said, how do you know if the machine's not working? And it was, of course, supposed to be a joke. He was supposed to say, well, it tastes bad. But he went into a 15-minute explanation of 15 different tests that they do to ensure me the water was okay. Now, a lot has changed since then, a lot has changed. And, of course, our friend astronaut Doug Wheelock is going to be with us again at Dayton this year. But I asked Doug about that, and Doug says his saying is, today's coffee is tomorrow's coffee. So today's coffee is tomorrow's coffee. So anyway, just wanted to let you guys know that Owen now is a silent key, and he's one of the first ones he is the first one to a cam radio into space. So you can see my voice is not doing good tonight. We're going to let the other guys and gals talk. I'll come back in a little while with a few things, but I'm going to rest my voice here. So back over to you, Katie.
You actually are sounding a little bit better, but that was nice to share that photo. I didn't realize that you had heard him the first time, and I've only been able to hear the astronauts a couple of times, and usually it's through someone else's live stream. I haven't had a chance to hear anyone yet, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try. But speaking of Hamvention, just a reminder for anybody who logged into our chat tonight, or even just to watch the show, you probably noticed a little pop-up window that came up. If you're going to be going to Hamvention, or you're going to be home and watching it on the live stream, you can, if you'd like to help support Tom and Kathy and all of the fine volunteers that go along to help, for just, I think it's $10 an entry, you could be entered in to win a Comet Analyzer, and you'll be in a special group of people, so it's only so many, but it really, anybody who can help out, it's greatly appreciated, because as I've said in the past, Tom and Kathy do this just because they love ham radio and everyone, and bringing the show to folks, and they bring in funds to help bring in the astronaut. We like to be at the show and see so many people, and he's always especially a hit with the kids and the guys that help with the cameras and behind the scenes. So it's a lot of work and effort, and they're not there as a business. They're just there as hobbyists bringing the show to everyone. So anyone that can help participate, it's greatly appreciated, and you might even get something out of the deal. So not too shabby.
Well,
there it is.
Thank you, Katie, for bringing it up. And there it is, guys. It's an expensive trip to webcast. We don't do any shopping. We don't do any looking around. The show is for you. We'll do 40 hours of live streaming next month of Hamvention. We're going to give away about $10,000 in prizes, but we've set this set this prize to the side. If you'll donate $10, $20, $30, for every $10, like Katie said, you'll get a chance to win this. And this is a great product, and it's really helped us out each year. So if you can, help us with the trip, do it. If you don't have the money, hold on to it. Don't do it. In all the other prizes, you're eligible for all the other prizes. You do not have to, donate for any of the other prizes.
Exactly. So so first of all, thank you to Comet for donating that once again. So help raise funds so that Tom and Kathy and the crew can all be there at Hamvention. And for everyone who's going to be at home watching, of course, as Tom just mentioned, there's at least about $10,000 worth of prizes that you have a chance to win by watching the show live and participating in the chat room. And all you have to do is be there when Hambot calls out your name on the chat room, and it's a lot of fun. And now Tom, he said he doesn't go away to go shopping, but he usually does try to escape and get a hamburger. So when one of us co-hosts show up at the booth, he usually tries to escape, and last year Glenn and I were there, and he tried. We blocked his path. We wouldn't let him leave, but he was begging to leave to go get a cheeseburger. But we do let him out every now and then. And those of us that help out with the show like to cover for a bit and let him get out and around and check it out. But looking forward to seeing everybody. I realized today, looking at the calendar, it's just a month from today. I'll be at Hamvention. We'll be getting things set up because the 16th of next month is a Thursday. And so I'll be flying in on Wednesday, and the HRO crew will be setting up. Just waiting to find out what exactly, but we're HRO. We're going to be throwing in something to the prize booth as well here for the Hambot prizes. So I'm excited about that. And not sure exactly what else is going on. Also, a reminder, as you guys know, the ICOM is one of our sponsors here on the show, and we really appreciate their support. And once again, ICOM is offering up their fun little thing from today until May 19th. They can go online to icomamerica.com/amateur, and they're giving away the ICOM swag bags again. And so that was kind of neat. We saw quite a few of those around last year. You sign up ahead of time, I believe. But go to their website and find out the deal about that, and you might win some cool swag. So, which, we all love that stuff. All the stuff we get for free. And a couple other things will be coming up, but we'll pick those up in a little bit. So in the meantime, joining us tonight, happy to welcome back Pat K7LNP, Lima November Papa, just south of me in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he apparently has a little bit about the same weather as I do. Got nailed with snow last week, and back to the sunshine and green things growing outside. So welcome, Pat. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing real good, Katie, and Tom, hope you start feeling better. I had that same thing, the cold, the cough. It took forever to get rid of. So weather here, it's crazy. Last Sunday was 71, and then we had rain and we had snow. We were supposed to get a chance of snow tonight, but at least right now, after 2 full days of rain, it's starting to clear up a little bit. So hopefully it's going to be better.
Peekaboo wants to say hi. Hi, everybody. Okay, get down, please.
So yeah,
All
summer's it's right down the corner, and I wish I could make it to Dayton. I can't, or I should say Xenia this year. I've been to Hamvention.
Well, we still call it Dayton.
Yeah, 24 years I went, and I haven't been to the new place. So I heard about these pork chop sandwiches that are supposed to be pretty good, and the vendors and all the fun stuff. So not this year. It's not in the cards this year, but next year for sure.
I hope so. Yeah, the new location. I love the new location.
I'm trying to keep the home from being home.
There's a lot of food vendors, some really good food. Those pork chop sandwiches, they look like T-bone steaks on the grill. They're these enormous pork chops and homemade ice cream, and I mean, there's literally like food for every palate you would like, from traditional fare food to healthy salads to steak sandwiches and tacos and all kinds of good stuff. And then I believe they've expanded one of their buildings, so there's tons of vendors and swap meet areas, lots of forums. So there's just no shortage of opportunities to learn a lot of things, and obviously getting together with all of your ham friends and visiting with each other. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully next year you can get out there. That'd be cool.
For sure, we'll be there for sure.
All right, so tonight you are joining us to talk about.
We're going to pick up a segment. Well, we've been doing the 50 meg and above stuff for a while.
Right.
And tonight we're going to do a presentation on transverters and talk a little bit about 6 meters. We're coming back into 6 meter season. The band is starting to open up. It was open up to the Pacific Northwest over the weekend. But we're going to talk about transverters, and I got a little product review, and that's about it. But we'll just have some fun and do a little slideshow and hopefully not bore everybody to death, maybe educate or at least inform a little bit.
Oh no, I love your presentations. I learned quite a bit when I was on a couple weeks ago with you, and I took a bunch of notes while you were talking. So I'm looking forward to it. So let's hit it. I got my reading glasses on and I'm ready to write.
You ready to go? Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Presentations can also. I threw up a quick and dirty website called weaksignalwork.com, and I've got them all up there as well. So let's go ahead and do a quick screen share, and let's see what we get. Let's see how we looking here. Put that up there. Pull Katie down here. I think we're there. Does that look okay to you, Tom?
I don't see it yet.
I don't see it yet.
I don't know if I'm seeing two of you. Maybe it's, oh, wait a minute. Da-da-da.
Don't see it.
I don't think it.
I don't think you shared.
I hate this new Skype some days.
Okay, let's try to share it again. Let's see if we can do
It
it.
used to be much easier with the plus sign. Now you have to do some weird things.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. I see a change happening.
How about that? Seeing that?
We see your desktop.
I think so. Well, I see it.
There we
Oh,
go.
there it
There we
is.
go.
Got it. Yeah, get me out of the way.
Put you down here.
All right.
Put you down here below the line. Pull you up. Put you down. All right. So let's do a little. Let's just kind of go through it. It's a little lengthy, but we're going to go through it kind of quick. Again, talking about VHF and above, 6 meters and above. Of course, there's a lot of radios on the market. The new ICOM 9700, which I'm hoping will show up on my shelf one of these days once they get them back in stock. And I've been following some of the forums and just nothing but great things about that radio for the VHF enthusiast. But I entitled this "Transverters Takes Us Somewhere Else for 50 meg and above" because there's just a lot of places that there's a lot of band space out there, a lot of bandwidth out there we can use. So I threw up this little ARRL band plan, and if you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner, as we can see, we have 6 meters, 2 meters, 222, 70 centimeters, 900 meg, 1296. But if you look down there close enough, we have allocations from 23, 2.4 gig, all the way to 275 gig. So anyone that says there's no room out there in the amateur bands, well, there's plenty of room. A lot of it's a little bit more difficult to find, and you'll need some specialized equipment, but you can get there. So if you want to try some of these microwave bands, like the 2304, 2.4 gig band, or 3.4, 5.7, or 10 gig or higher, again, allocations past 250 gig, you will need a transverter. So what's a transverter? Let's just go over it real quickly. A transverter is just a device that can up convert and down convert all in one unit. They're used in conjunction with transceivers to change the range of frequencies over which the transceiver can operate. Transverters are most commonly used to convert radio transceivers designed for HF use, usually to 2 and 6 meters. So obviously if you've got an HF rig, you get a transverter, it'll take you, if it doesn't have 6 or 2 built into it, it can take you to 6 or 2 or even 222. A lot of people that want to get into the higher bands of operation, like 1296, 2304, 5760, so on and so forth, will use a 144 megahertz VHF radio. Now that could be something like an ICOM 706 Mark II-G, or something a little bit older like an ICOM 275, something that is capable of all modes and something that is capable of transmitting at 144 meg. That radio that we use, whether it's for an HF radio or a 2-meter all mode, is referred to as an IF radio. It says that it connects into the IF, or the intermediate frequency, in the chain of the transceiver stages. So it's an add-on to the transceiver. Just look at it as kind of an extra part of the radio that's external to the radio. Again, as a general statement, there's really no off-the-equipment shelf that I'm aware of for anything over 1.2 gig. The new ICOM 9700 and its predecessor, like the 910, 1.2, or I'm sorry, 1296 or 1.3 gig is as high as it went. To build a radio that would go higher, obviously would have a lot of limited features, would be quite specialized. So again, a transverter just comes into play because you can use all the features of your 2-meter all mode or your HF radio, and then use that for a greater range of frequencies. The only radio that I was ever aware of that somebody mentioned was the ICOM 970. The 970 actually had a 2304 module that could be plugged into it. Now I understand that those on the used market are going for collector type pricing, but that was the only one I was ever aware of. So how it works, real simply, a transverter is just an extra stage with a mixer and an oscillator. So I put a little bit of writing and stuff up here, but essentially the transmit output of the two, let's use an example of 2 meters to 1296. The 2-meter radio is passed through an attenuator in the transverter to limit the signal low enough so it can be mixed with the LO, the local oscillator of the transverter. So essentially the transverter is multiplying, it's adding different things in. This mix is passed through a bandpass filter to produce the final output frequency, in this case of a 2-meter to 1296 transverter of 1296. The signal's amplified and it's sent out to the antenna port. The receive side is exactly the same thing. The incoming signal is amplified, it's mixed with the transverter's LO to produce the 144 meg sig for the IF radio, and then 1296 comes out on your 144 meg radio. Here's a little bit of an overview, the example being that we take a Yaesu 817 and dial it up to 144.1 upper sideband. The middle box is the transverter. It converts 144, triples, multiplies up to 1296, and then the output is the 1296 antenna. Same coming the other way. The 1296 antenna receives, comes into the transverter turns it down, deconverts it, if you will, in the receive stages, puts it back into the radio, and now the 144.1 signal comes up for receiving. So again, it's kind of a pass-through box that goes both ways. What goes in, what comes out. Whatever mode you put into the transverter, that same mode's going to come out. So if you use sideband in is sideband out, FM in is FM out, FT8 or digital modes are in, they come out the same way. You don't need to make any mode changes or anything. Whatever you put in comes out the other side, vice versa on the receive. The numbers are the same. In principle, all the design principles for all transverters are kind of the same. The frequencies are just a little bit different, and the mixing is a little bit different. Of course, the design of it's a little bit different. The problem that I should say that if you're going to get involved with working with the higher bands and weak signal work is frequency stability. That's probably the biggest problem that you're going to encounter. Tighter design and setup is required. The higher you go in frequency. Temperature control is critical, and frequency stability of the IF radio is very critical. In some cases, you'll actually use what's known as a GPS DO or a GPS discipline oscillator with a 10 meg plug into your radio. Yeah, it can get complicated, but you know what? It's fun. And we'll talk a little bit about that 10 meg, the GPS DO 10 meg input. Getting high years ago. Do a little history lesson for everybody. Before the transverter was all in one box, we called converters. Companies like Waters produced a 2 and 6 meter receiving converter. 2 and 6 meters were converted to 28 meg, so it was a receive converter. Companies like Hamtronics, who've been around for a while. Hamtronics is still offering kits. You can go out to their website and you can buy a kit from them. They don't make as many transverters or converters like they used to for several bands, but I believe they make a couple for 2 and 450. Actually, there is a Hamtronics 432 receiving converter that I built years and years ago, and believe it or not, it works really well still. It's not going to compete with like a 9700 or one of the higher end all modes, but in its day it was pretty cool, and it worked. And it was cool that it worked when I built it. A company called Dayton out of the UK, they put a little VHF converter together that was for 144 meg to 28 meg. Now again, this was strictly a receiving converter. RL Drake, when they stepped on the scene and started producing stuff for the VHF ranges, they came out with what was known as the SC6 for 6 meters. It was a receiving converter for 6. That's what they look like. They made the Drake SC2 for 2 meters. That's what it looks like, same thing. And then they built this unit called the CC1. It was a housing for these receiving converters. It was a Converter Council 1 is what it stood for. So back in the day when you had your TR4 or you had your B line or your C line or your TR3, you could have this module. The module's plugged into these boxes and hooked into the radio. And then when you decided that you wanted to go to 2 meters or you wanted to go to 6 meters, you were able to do that. Pretty interesting little device, and it worked well. Converters for transmit then came out for Drake. For the sake of this review, they came out with the TC2. That was a 2 meter transmitting only converter Actually, the TC2 works great. I believe they put out about 80 or 90 watts. They came out with the Drake TC6, same thing for 6 meters, 10 meters in, 6 meters out. And again, in its time, it was quite expensive, but that was the whole setup to have the TC2 and the TC6 and the CC1 with your Drake line. That could get you on 2 and 6 meters. Now, for anyone who's been around playing with VHF, the little cherry on top was the Raytrack Horizon 6. Actually, it's kind of interesting because, of course, Drake was based out of Miamisburg, Ohio, and this company called Raytrack popped up out of Columbus, Ohio. This is a 6 meter only high-powered amplifier. If you look at it carefully, it looks just like a Drake L4B. Runs a pair of 3-500s, and it'll give you about 1,200 watts out on 6 meters. You see them pop up on the used market. I wouldn't be afraid to buy one. I don't think I would push the tubes at full tilt with the digital modes, but if you want a nice 7, 8, 900 or 1,000 watts for sideband on 6 meters, definitely the way to go. Some of the early transverters that came out that were all-in-one units, it was the SB500, it's a 2 meter transverter, and that was put out by Heathkit. That would take your 10 meter signal and put you on 2 meters. It would work for receive and transmit as well. Collins came out with the 62S1 for the Collins line, and that is a 2 and 6 meter transverter. They didn't make a lot of these. If you come across one of these, they come with a very hefty price tag. I'm not a Collins collector by any means, but my understanding is this is a very prime piece of equipment to get. A lot of down to earth, a lot of people that are really into collecting Collins gear. This is one of the things that they want on their desk. So I think if I ever collected Collins and came across one, I would never use it, but it definitely would look good with the collection. Kenwood in the early days came out with the TV 502 and 506. These were for the 820, 830, 530 series. Again, these were all in one unit, so the receive converter and the transmitting converter were built in the box. Yaesu came out with their transverters, the 650 for 6 and the 250 for 2. Then they revised them a little bit when the 901 series came out, put everything, I believe, this is the 2, 6, and 432 converter. They all went in one box. And when they came out with the 707 series, this was the transverter that would work on 2, 6, and 432, but you needed some additional modules. Coming into the 80s and 90s, transverter companies started popping up as the popularity of VHF and above was starting to hit the airwaves. Companies like Microwave Modules came out of the UK. I still know people to this day that run the Microwave Module stuff. This came out, I believe, in the mid to early 80s. It was a 1296 transverter, 2 meters in, 1296 out, just a couple of watts out. That's all it is, but it got you on 1.2 gig. Tokyo High Power came out with a whole line of transverters. They were more popular over in Asia than they were here in European companies, but they were out. A little company came out, put this transverter out for 2 meters called the Echo 2. This thing was built for the 2 meter EME group back in the 80s, people that were getting out of 2 meters. It was kind of a specialized 2 meter EME transverter. Let's talk a little bit today about the modern day transverters that are popular out there. Probably one of the most popular one is Down East Microwave. Down East Microwave is based out of Florida. Steve has been building transverters for years. I guarantee you he'll be at Dayton whenever I had the chance to get to Hamvention. I always made it a point to stop by, see him, save my nickels, and pick up some stuff. He has just got some amazing stuff. If you're interested in VHF, microwave stuff, Down East Microwave is the place. He's one of the only, to my knowledge, one of the only companies in the States here that's actually producing equipment, and very knowledgeable, very, very helpful folks for sure. DB6NT puts out the Kuhn line of transverters. Well, Kuhn puts out the DB6NT transverters. I would say these will rank up in the probably not in the Cadillac, but the Mercedes or the Lamborghini line. This is the high-end stuff, built very well. German engineering. Kuhn stuff is really nice. It comes with a nice price tag. But if you're looking for the ultimate transverter, without a doubt, they're the way to go. Elecraft is still putting out the 2-meter transverter. They've dropped the 221 up on the top and the 6-meter one. I run one of these for 222. Excuse me. Great piece of equipment, super stable, very well built, and you can find them on the used market, priced, fairly well. If you want to get yourself on 2 or 6 or 432, if you don't have a radio that currently goes there, this little transverter by the Transverter Store out of Russia. This is a small little transverter. It puts out 10 watts. The price is really right. You can find these online, built for right around $100, $125. They actually have an attenuator that can be put in them for HF, so you don't have to worry about driving the thing and damaging the thing. And they're pretty stable. There's been a few people that have complained that, well, they're maybe not as good as some others, but again, the price point is there. So if you want to try those bands, without a doubt, it's a good way to go. Another company out of Bulgaria called SG Labs puts out a line of transverters for 1296, 900 meg, and now 2304. Very, very good response from the company. I actually have one of their transverters for 900 meg. A lot of different options, a lot of different things, and their customer support is really good. You order it, usually within about a week and a half, it's going to be sitting on your door. So again, those are some of the transverters that are in use, and there's even more out there. But probably one of the more common ones that are on the market. I can't get my tablet to work, Kate. Were there any questions in the chat room at all, or any questions, or just keep on rolling?
I did see one. Hold on. I think I have to scroll back up here.
My tablet just keeps kicking out whenever.
Well, I see that David KJ4CMY said he downloaded your last presentation. It was great. So we know that works.
Oh, cool.
All right,
cool.
All right, let's see one. I know somebody had a question in there. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Mark, N4BCD, Mark from our Huntsville Hamfest. At what frequency does one change from coax to waveguides? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say, well, anything above 10 gig. I mean, there are adapters out there that you can, instead of using coax, you can use waveguide for, but then you need transitions to go from coax, even if it's like the real small, thin stuff like UT141. But most of that stuff is used at 10 gig and above.
Okay.
And again, you don't want to run a huge length of it the whole, with waveguide. And a lot of these transverters that, if you're going to operate the higher frequencies with, for the most part, most people don't have a 10 gig array on the roof,
Right.
and then, coax into the shack. Most of that stuff is portable. Or if they want to operate 10 gig from the radio room, the transverter, the amp, everything goes up the tower and it's right at the dish or the feed point. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great. Well,
Cool.
look, and actually, as I was scanning back, it looked like a few people were adding an answer to that question too. So everybody's helping everybody out in the chat room too. So perfect.
Well, cool. And
All right.
and the thing, Katie, and just in general, guys, gals, for this UHF stuff and VHF and SHF stuff, the cool thing is there's a lot of surplus stuff out on the market. If you want to get into it, you can go out to eBay or Hamfest and stuff like that, and all this equipment, especially the stuff that came out of the 90s and from years back, there's a lot of low loss stuff out there you can pick up cheap. So it's fun, experiment, do different things. It's these bands are just a ton of fun to play with, and sometimes a ton of aggravation too, but that's what makes the hobby go around.
Exactly.
All right, so let's go pick back up again.
Great.
Not all transverters go up. In the case of, again, talking years back, I had one of these still, never fired the thing up. I bought it at AES when they were still in business in Milwaukee years and years and years ago. Demtron had a 160 meter transverter because back in the 70s, a lot of radios didn't have 160 meters on them. They were 80 through 10 meters. So this transverter can get you on 160. They were pretty pricey, and they put out, I believe, right around 100 watts of power. A new band now, get transferred the same way, but we're going downward, is the new 630 meter band. Monitor Sensors puts this transverter out so you can get yourself on 630 meters. Price tag, my understanding, is a little bit high on it, but it works very well, and the reviews are outstanding. And there's a picture of one on a Flex radio, a little speaker there. Again, that band seems to be getting more popular. Every time I do some reading, it seems like more and more people are experimenting with it. Let's talk a little bit about IF radios that we talked about earlier in the presentation. Here's a great little radio that if you're going to go out and do portable work, if you're going to play with microwave stuff or stuff higher than 432, the little 817, there's the 817ND and now the new 818. These are a great little IF radio. They're small, they don't consume a lot of power. They can run on batteries all day long, and they're all mode, and they're very, very stable little radios. I've got a 10 gig setup that I use portable from time to time, and that's what I have is one of the late 17s. Elecraft, the KX3, again, while it's a great QRP radio, a lot of guys in the VHF, UHF, SHF community are using these for IF radios because they are so featured, they're so full featured, and they offer so many different options. It's just a great little radio. The Zygu, the X515 is being used with transverters now. Again, a very affordable all-mode HF, small, low-power consumption radio. Or again, if you want to do some SDR stuff with a computer or a tablet, the Flex radio systems, the Flex 1500 is a good little radio. Going back a few years in time, if you want to get on these bands, there are a lot of 2-meter all modes out there. Like the ICOM 275. You see them up for sale every now and then. A great radio. I mean, that was the Cadillac in its day. That was the ICOM radio to have. But they still make a great IF radio. Or the little TR751 by Kenwood. You find them on the used market. Same thing, a great little radio to drive your transverters to get yourself above 144 megahertz. Let's talk a little bit about input power. All I can tell you is watch the power. I'll repeat that several times. Most transverters, this is just as a common statement, are designed to handle 5 watts or less. Now, when you order a transverter or you buy one offline, you find you look at the specs on it and take a look at what its drive requirements are. But transverters normally, as a rule, have very, very low drive levels. Some transverters can only handle less than a watt. Some of them can't even handle a watt. So again, a full-size transceiver most full-size transceivers, and we're talking about an HF radio, can't be dialed down to under 5 watts. So if you have a transverter that requires a couple milliwatts in, you take and put your HF radio behind it with 10 watts, poof, you're going to pop it. Can they be repaired? Yeah, a lot of them have safety devices built into the front of them, but it means pulling out the soldering iron and replacing pieces or sending it back to the company. In most places, if they've been overpowered or overdriven, they're kind of considered, you're going to pay the price for it if you're going to send it back for repair. As an example, here's the back of the Yaesu 1000 MP Mark V. And if you look there with the little red box, that has a transverter output on it. This radio, which I actually have a 1000 Mark V, or an MP, is a great radio for driving transverters. It puts out the right kind of power. I don't remember what the output is on that jack. I'd have to look in my notes, but it has a transverter output on it. Again, please check the wattage of your IF radio. Make sure you know. If you don't know, well, once you've got it all calculated up, again, and if you need to knock it down a little bit, you don't have to go into the radio and start playing with it. You can use an attenuator. I would say that one of your best investments, if you're going to play with UHF, SHF stuff, microwave stuff, invest in a good quality watt meter that you can change slugs in to get an accurate reading. Again, know the facts. Don't just drop power into it because you're going to pop it, you're going to blow it up. There's a little 10 watt, 20 dB attenuator. You'd have to calculate up what you need. But again, that will knock your power down enough so that you can drive the transverter. Some transverters, and we're not going to go into this tonight, we'll maybe do that in another segment, have multiple ports on them so you can transmit into one port, receive into the other port. Some radios are designed for both. Some of the newer ones are, like the Flex radio stuff is probably is one of the best radios you can use for transverters because they're specifically designed to handle that. Again, make sure that you do the math before you power the thing up. Wow, surprise! Thought I'd throw this little slider to my granddaughter. This thing, usually unadvertised, and it's sometimes is what's known as the good old hidden transverter mode. A lot of times you won't see that in any sales brochures. Here's an FT1000 MP. If you look at the display on it, it's 144 meg. Actually, years ago, took a picture, the same picture, showed to a buddy of mine. I said, hey, I had Yaesu modify this radio. I got the best 2-meter all mode out there. But that's strictly just a transverter mode. You can actually go into a menu and go ahead and select what band you want it to display. If you don't have a radio that can do that, if you've got an older radio, hey, good old spreadsheet or a line tablet with a pen and pencil I've done for years, and it works. But having this is really, really slick. Sometimes we can be a little bit off center. We can be a little bit off the mark. Let me explain. One of your best friends, if you're going to play with transverters and these higher bands, is a frequency counter. So that when you see what comes in, what goes out of your radio, goes into the transverter and comes out the other side. Here's kind of an exaggerated drawing, but I've had this happen in the past to me. In this case here, we're using a little 817. We've got a 1296 transverter to a 1296 antenna. Well, in some cases, the transverter, there could be a few little issues going on with it, or a few little issues with your IF radio. There may need to be some adjustments. You may put 144 in, expecting 1296 out, and you're actually getting 1296 103 out. That's 3 KCs is a pretty hefty swing, but it can happen. So what we end up doing is, if you know this and you're doing it on paper, you're obviously going to dial your IF radio down 3 KCs. The transverter is going to see 144097. It's going to give you 1296 out and 1296 to the antenna. There can be a little difference and a little fluctuation both ways. Now, when you're talking about doing this, and let's say you're going to play around with 3456 or 5.7 gig or even 2304. People that live in the Midwest, which I wish I lived back in, have a lot of fun with rain scatter. A lot of guys are doing 10 gig rain scatter. Being on frequency is really, really critical. You know, if you're 2-3 KCs off, especially when you're talking about these ultra weak signal modes, you're just never going to find who you're looking for. Now, of course, with the advent of the SDR radio, we have the spectrum scope, and if you're transmitting and someone else is transmitting, you can kind of move over and you can tune toward the line. But I look back at this in the old days, before the days of a pan adapter and all that, and it either worked right or it didn't. So a frequency counter, without a doubt, helps out. Some radios can handle the offset. Radios like the Elecraft, even though, like on this display as an example, it's showing 144.3. The radio itself, the transverter may be off a KC or half a KC or a quarter KC. You can actually go in there and program in an offset. While you look at the radio as 144.3, it may be transmitting or receiving either up or down a little bit. Kind of the nice features of some of the more modern radios. We talked about in the beginning of this about the GPS discipline oscillator, and that when we get higher in frequency, different things come into play. Stability is one. Temperature is another thing. You take even like a 2304 transverter, a 2.4 gig transverter, leave it in the back of your car or something like that in the wintertime, bring it in, hook it up. Just like a radio, it's going to just drift all over the place. So you've got temperature drift that you got to compensate for, but then you also have frequency drift. So there's several different ways you can go. A lot of the newer transverters actually have a 10 meg input on the back that they can use for stability. Here's an older, this was known as the old Z-Box by HP. These came out years ago. They were real expensive. It was an early GPS receiver that a lot of radio stations and scientific places would use. I had one. I actually still got one that it's out in the garage, and believe it or not, it still works. I had to do a few software updates on it, but it still works. It's a very reliable GPS receiver. There are some people that opt to go with a rubidium frequency reference. Rubidium is a very stable product, but they also have a GPS enhancement to realign the thing a little bit. Or if you want something that works really well, they've come way down in price. Here's a GPS discipline oscillator. These come out of China. They run right around $100. You put up your little GPS antenna up on the roof, run it in, you get the 10 meg IF out, and you can use that to lock your transverter down or actually put into the back of the radio, depending on the radio you have. The new ICOM 9700 is, again, for anybody, I would say this is a dream radio with the features that were put into this. The engineering that went into this was just amazing. I know on some of the forums, some people talk about, well, I'm not going to spend $1,800 for an FM radio for repeaters. Well, it would look cool on your desk, but it's really a high performance, a very high performance radio that was designed for these bands. And again, a lot of people are going to be using them with transverters. The EME community is really welcoming this radio with open arms. I think there's a lot of people want to see what it'll do. There might be some firmware adjustments that'll need to be made, but this is going to be, I mean, this is new. This is the new frontier to have a radio of this caliber. When they built this radio, again, they did the proper engineering. If you look on the back of it, they put a 10 meg reference signal input. That's what that little SMA connector is in there for. Not only will it help on bands like 1296, it'll come into a play on all bands, but again, as you use this as an IF radio, you need a stable IF radio, you need a stable transverter to keep everything on frequency and lined up. So ICOM they really did their engineering. The only downside I've heard is on part number A over here, a lot of people were complaining they put end connectors on. Why did they put an end connector on for 2 meters instead of an SO239? I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but that's kind of been one of the complaints that I've seen on the forums. Here's a transverter. This is a Down East Microwave 2.3, 2.4 gig transverter. That common IF, that 10 gig. That's an input for your GPS signal, for your 10 meg signal to go in, and that's the reference. That's the starting point. Nice stable 10 meg starting point, and then you can multiply and mix from there. Again, the Flex radio systems, hands down, really and truly the way to go with the PAN adapter. These radios with the Power SDR console offer so much. Again, a lot of the weak signal guys, the EME guys, are using this setup. It just works well, and it's very, very flexible to work with transverters. There's the 6500, a great radio. Company out of California, W6PQL, actually makes a whole line of amplifiers and transverters, but he's really known for amps and stuff for the weak signal community and VHF, UHF, SHF community. This is a little transverter controller. So if you have a radio like the 6500, and let's say you've got transverters for many different bands, this little controller can leave everything plugged in, and you don't have to unhook everything. It controls the inputs to the transverter. Here's kind of the back end of the Flex 6700, just a simple setup showing again where you've got a 2 meter, that's a 2 meter amplifier. The transverter's built into that radio. There's the 10 meter hub or the 10 meg GPS locking hub that's coming out of a splitter and in a 432 transverter. So without a doubt, a very, very nice way to go. Anyway, I hope I didn't confuse anybody. Maybe we went a little bit fast, but just wanted to give you a little bit of sampling of how a transverter works. And if you're going to consider getting onto these higher bands, if you want to play with 2.4 gig or you want to play with 10 gig, 10 gig is very popular. I mean, there's a lot of people on 10 gig. If you go out and do some searching, you'll find a lot of stuff out there if you want to get out in the field and have some fun. Again, these bands have a lot of limitations, but that's what makes the experimentation so much fun, is playing around with the equipment and grid square chasing and all that other fun stuff. But again, if you want to extend into these upper bands, you're going to need a transverter in most cases, and we'll do some more presentations down the road on how to get maybe a little bit more into the details of hooking some things up and some of the do's and don'ts. And again, I'm not an expert by any means, but I've been doing it for a long time. I do say it as a sideline. I've blown a lot of stuff up, but I've learned a lot from it. So that's kind of fun. WeakSignalWork.com is my website. You can find this presentation and all the other ones out there. You can email me if you've got questions. I'll be glad to talk with you. I'll be glad to help you absolutely any way I can. I love it, and I want to see people getting this part of the hobby enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. It really is.
That was really neat. Quite a spread of things you can do in the equipment. I had no idea it was so involved. That was really neat. I was trying to keep up with everything. I'm watching myself here on multiple windows. I did see, the only question I saw come across was from Dwayne up in Nova Scotia, VA1 DWG. He was wondering if you can actually homebrew a transceiver.
A transceiver?
A transverter. Sorry. Ah.
Yeah. Well, you could homebrew them.
Yeah.
Companies like Down East Microwave actually offer all their transverters in kit form.
Okay.
So if you want to put one together, but you know what? If you go out there, there's so many different people that have come up with transverters. Is it the W1GHZ puts out a little 222 transverter board that you could drop into your 817. Yeah, you could, sure, without a doubt, you could build your own. There's plenty of home brewing going on.
Yeah, over the years, there's been a lot in the handbook about home brewing transverters.
Pat, you need to still turn off your screen share. We're still seeing you partway. We're seeing one of your monitors, I think it is. Yeah.
Better?
That way we don't have to. There we go. Now we don't have to see three of me. Yeah.
All right.
And there's companies. Is it Tom? I don't know. Is it Far Circuits that builds a lot of the boards for stuff out of the handbooks?
Yeah.
Over the years, I think they put boards out. So yeah, there's kits available. There really are. That's what's so fun about the hobby. That's what's so fun about this upper frequency stuff.
All right.
So
well, hey, I want us to do some moon bounce stuff here this summer. I'm really wanting to get set up to do that, but
sure.
I just hadn't made it yet.
We will.
Yeah, we've done that a little bit here. It's pretty neat. Dwayne's done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he's actually made a contact, but he's hurt himself so far. Oh, you had. I'm sorry. He has made a. He's just. Oh, we made a contact into Japan. And into Europe. So he's made a couple of them. So now I guess it's my turn.
Yes,
cool.
For sure. You're in a perfect location.
What is it?
Well, Pat, thank you so much for
$3.
for showing us that today. Oh,
It was an N converter from.
yeah.
You were. Let me see. I can't tell. I'm hoping it's.
For those people that are complaining about that in out on the back of the
Yeah.
rig,
Oh.
$3 they can change it over to.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
We always buy like a bag full of these every time we go to a ham fest because you can never have enough of these laying around the shack.
And then when you throw them all in a bag and throw them somewhere and you need them, you're like, I know they're in a bag somewhere, and you go buy more.
Yeah, exactly. We do that with electrical tape. I swear we have a storage room full of electrical tape now because we're always losing it and then buying more.
All right, well,
That
Pat,
was cool.
Pat,
Well, again,
thank you.
everybody,
Thank you, Pat.
reminding everybody one more time what your website is so they can look at the presentation again and then
Yeah.
follow up if they have questions. Weak signal.
It's weaksignalwork.com.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
I'll throw
you.
that in the
Thank you so much, Pat.
chat.
And you can stick around for the rest of the show if you want to. In fact, if my
Sure.
voice goes out, you may have to continue with the show.
Well,
I don't think.
we've got
Oh
one
no, you have
other-
a review to talk about.
Yeah, but do you want to? I don't know if you want to take a break or do some other things. That'll only take a couple of minutes.
Sure.
But whatever you'd like to do.
All right. Okay. So you got another part to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember he was going to do a review.
Oh, I tell you what, it's almost 9. Let's do this. Let's save that. Let's save that and do it on another show.
Okay, no problem.
And I've got a few other things we need to cover here. But
Sure.
thanks a lot for that tonight. And let's take a quick break. And Pat, just stick around with us a few minutes, if you can.
I sure can.
All right. We'll be back in just a second.
Crazy hair going on here.
Oh, goodness.
Create your own band openings. ICOM newest SDR transceiver, the IC9700, is coming soon. This new radio is bringing direct sampling to the UHF VHF weak signal world. The IC9700 is an all-mode transceiver loaded with innovative features such as dedicated amateur satellite operation, color touchscreen, D-Star capability built in, RF direct sampling on 2 meters and 70 centimeter bands. It has a dual independent receiver capable of full duplex operation as well as dual watch and 100 watts. Max output on 2 meters, 75 watts on 70 centimeters, and 10 watts on 1.2 gigahertz. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
Right, and we should be back. Okay, I'm going to see if my voice will hold up just for a minute. Got a couple things to show you. This past weekend was the Memphis Free Fest. Memphis Free Fest, it's a ham fest. It's free. They give you a free table. They give you free tickets to come in. You can even win prizes. And all donations go to Le Bonheur Children's Hospital, or all the money they raise. So I went there again last week. I got a few pictures. Let me see. I did pick me up a gizmo there. I picked me up an Alpha 86 amplifier. I had a nice AL80B here that runs a good, cool kilowatt, but this is the Alpha 86. You know, they advertise, they put the key on it, and you put it up to legal power, and you put the key on it, and you walk away for about a week. So I just want to try it and see how it is. It's pretty well built. It's about a 20-year-old amplifier, but very hefty power transformer in it. But very clean inside. It runs three CX800s in it. The tubes aren't cheap. To replace those 2 tubes, it's about $1,800. All right, let's see. Okay, and then where's the Ham Fest? Here we go. Here we go. So here's the Memphis Free Fest. It's all inside. Well, they do have tailgating outside, but it was raining that day. But here's some of the booths. You can see a lot of old equipment, tube testers, vintage stuff. We had our sign up. We did not webcast it, but we did have our banner up, and I did pass some cards out. There's Terry and our
the guy Glenn.
Glenn. I was trying to get Arduino man. Our Arduino man out there right here, and they're always working on a lot of Arduino projects. I think Terry had a article written in QST magazine last month about RF exposure, and had a little device on a backpack that measured that.
Right.
So let's see. A couple other different shots. There's the ticket barrel and stuff at Free Fest. They did have one guy did set up tailgating outside, but he was the only guy that set it up outside, and it was raining and it was cold. So I don't know. He was a true ham to go to that much trouble there.
No kidding.
Let's see a couple things. I want to show you. Talk to you a minute about our balloon launch. You know, we launched a test balloon. Bill WB8ELK launched a test balloon for us a few days ago, and it's with the Mylar balloon. You know, it's not really made to stay up more than about 21 days. But right now, the last position that we have here is just south of Puerto Rico, and that's because there are no APRS sites between here and Africa, and actually none in Africa. The neat thing about it, and you can track these balloons on our balloon page up at the top menu. We will be launching our super duper high altitude balloon in a couple weeks, made out of sushi wrap, and we're going to put Whisper on it instead of APRS. So with Whisper on it, we should be able to track it every mile or two. With APRS, you've got to be in range of APRS, receiving stations, and we've got a long ways to go. Now, as we're doing the show right now, our balloon should be getting close to Africa. This program has a neat little thing. you've seen the hurricane predictions. We can click on this and get predictions just like hurricane, but it's looking at the weather. Let's see, let me get over here. It's looking at the wind and everything. So there's the predictions. There's the predictions of various different tracks that the balloon will take as it goes over the ocean. Now, so the last track we had was right below Puerto Rico, but right now the balloon is approaching Africa. If I click on here, if I click on the projected, this should tell me what time it's projected here. So I'm going to click there, and it tells me that at 2300 UTC today, is that today? Yeah. 2300 today, it should be in that position right there. So we're trying to see, well, first of all, if you look, we're going to go right over Africa with it. Also, we're at nighttime. You can see the night and day shadows here. We're nighttime. Now, the balloon does not have a battery, so we will not transmit during the nighttime. Also, we will not transmit, we won't receive a transmission if we're not in APRS range. I can turn on the APRS sites. Let me turn it on and I'll show you where they are. Well, they're already on. So if you look at the map, let me pull it down. Well, let's see. APRS coverage. If I click APRS coverage, you can see the coverage there on APRS. Wow. So, and you can see the U.S. is pretty full with APRS and a little bit down into South America or Central America. Europe has got a lot of coverage, but there's almost no APRS coverage at all through Africa. So we're going to have to go across Africa, and we'll hit the Middle East before we start getting APRS coverage again. We think this balloon will circumnavigate the Earth. It's good for about 21 days, and we think it's going to probably go over Korea and then it'll come into the West Coast. So let's watch it over the next few days and see where it is. And we already get a track coming back on it again. Probably by tomorrow night, we'll be seeing a track on it. So let me turn the APRS off, and you can see just the track here. One of the reasons you're not seeing the beginning of the track up here is because it was launched at night, at 8 o'clock at night. So the sun didn't come up till right here, and that's when we started seeing it on the track here. So there we are. That's our balloon. In a couple weeks, we'll try to launch the sushi wrap balloon with the hydrogen gas, and we will configure it for Whisper. Whisper will do 7,000 miles. So APRS does about, from the balloons, they'll do about 250 miles. But APRS has been known to do 7,000 miles from the balloon. So we should have very good coverage with the Whisper. So we're looking really forward to that. Let's see, what else did I have real quick? Let's see. Next week we've got Michael Coulter. We've got Michael Coulter and others on from DARA to talk about Hamvention, and we'll get some good updates from them. Again, Sunday, if you're just tuning in, Sunday of Hamvention this year. It's open to the public and it's free. One mention again, guys, this is the CAA 500. We're setting this aside for a prize to our supporters. If you will help us to support our trip by donating $10, we'll put your name in a ticket hat for this great antenna analyzer. $20 gets you 2 tickets, $30 3 tickets, and so forth. Now, we do have a lot of other prizes. They're all free. This is the only prize that we have put up for donations to help cover the high cost of putting this webcast on. And it will be about 40 hours of a Hamvention. So I think that's most of the announcements I had. And as you can see, my voice is going out.
Yep. You're
So,
about.
Hey, Tom,
yeah, go
Tom, I
ahead,
had a
Pat.
question for you. A buddy of mine from Chicago who's listening just texted me. What was the approximate cost to do your balloon project? What is it? What are you looking at ballpark wise to launch
Okay.
one of these?
Well, to the Sky Tracker, the Sky Tracker contains the GPS. It also contains the Whisper transmitter and the APRS transmitter. That tracker, that Sky Tracker, is about $130 or $40. The balloon that we're using, this balloon is only a $3 balloon. It's a party balloon. It's a Mylar party balloon. And Bill's testing this one to see if it holds up better. Some of the earlier batches had defects in them, but so far this one's flying really well. It stayed right at 29,000 feet. Since we left here, it's still at 29,000 feet. It hadn't varied hardly any. So with a party balloon and a tracker, and of course a little bit for the gas, but you're probably looking at $150 to put that up. The sushi balloon that we're going to be putting up in a couple weeks, the sushi balloon itself is about $130. It's a high performance balloon made out of sushi wrap. It'll be about $130, and the Sky Tracker again is about $130 or $140. So you're talking $250, $300 by the time you get your gas. Now we're putting hydrogen in these. We'll have better luck with hydrogen than we will with helium. So
Gotcha.
that's where we are.
Tom, I thought I'd share one other quick announcement just in case anybody hadn't noticed it, since one of our other co-hosts on the show periodically is Riley Hollingsworth, and just a couple of weeks ago he talked about the new volunteer monitor program that he's working on with the league. And I saw a note that today actually the ARRL and the FCC signed a memo of understanding to put that program officially into the works. So looks like everything is continuing to move forward, and I believe it looks like it's they're saying about the first monitors will be put into place in about 6 to 9 months and ready to begin their duties. But it's kind of exciting to see, after hearing him talk about it a couple weeks ago, to see how it's progressing. So if you go to the ARRL.org and just check the news feed, it's right there on the front page. But just thought I would share that.
Yeah, and
congratulations
Riley is going to be with us next week, I think.
Oh, great. Perfect.
And he can talk more about that.
Excellent.
What else we got tonight, guys? Hey, DMR, we got our own show, DMR Talk Group, 31693. I've already heard a few guys and talked to a few guys on it. And advertise it to your friends and starting to get a group together on 31693.
How you liking that little IP transceiver you got? I've got a bunch of
I think
hotspots
the
and stuff, and I don't know
IP
the first
radio.
thing about it. I've given up. I'm thinking about getting one of those.
Yeah, the
And
IP.
just talk and quit playing games with it.
Well, it's an IP radio, yeah. The jury is still out. It's working. I'm not a digital person, and a lot of things that I hear and complain about with it are things that other people say that's common for a hotspot or something like that. Sometimes you get garbage voices. Sometimes you'll hear a conversation, and then the other guy will just go away. That's the kind of things I'm hearing here, but I understand that happens on other things too, so I think it's inherent to the network.
Well, I watch Josh play around with that stuff and program it. And I'm an IT guy for a living, but this has got me kind of baffled. There's some things I just don't understand. So I was thinking about getting one of those and maybe make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, we're going to be running it going to Dayton. We'll have DMR in a truck. We'll also have the RigPi station server, the new MFJ remote control station. By the way, they'll be announcing that at Dayton this year. It's on the market now. They're already starting to take orders for it, and you'll see that too. We'll be running that going to Dayton on HF, and we'll be running DMR, and we'll be running streaming. We'll be running the chat room. So we'll have a lot going on in the truck.
Looking
on
forward to it.
Ways.
Well,
Well,
guys,
sounds
it's,
like, Tom, you need to give your voice a rest.
yeah, I'm going to work very hard to get this voice better and working by next week. Thanks, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and end the show tonight. We enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hosting, guys, and also for the presentation, Pat.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
And let's see. I guess that's it. If you
right.
come to Dayton, come by and visit us. Katie will be there. Josh will be there. Riley's there. Martin's there. And astronaut Doug Wheelock says he'll be there with us. Not sure.
Great.
Not, we'll have to confirm that again. His schedule can always change, but he said he'll be there. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, 73, everybody. 73.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for
And
joining us.
We'll see you guys
Take care,
later.
guys.
Good night to everybody.
Bye.
All right. Good night. Bye-bye.
All right.
So you're saying I can
Good night,
ask
guys.
this
We'll
cat
see you. I'm
any
gonna get off here.
question?
The cat
See you,
is
Tom.
connected
Bye,
Thanks a lot,
to
sir.
the
Feel
computer.
better.
You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Thanks to everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to cut it off just a few minutes early tonight. 73 to everybody.